So, good morning. My name is Jen Sheffer, and this is Help Desk Live. This is episode 14. It's possibly the final episode of season 1, but I'm thinking about a couple bonus episodes in June. I am the instructional technology specialist at Burlington High School in Burlington, Massachusetts, and we've been one-to-one for going on 3 years now. And for the final episode, I wanted to put the spotlight on Burlington and talk with a couple of our one of our elementary school teachers as well as our middle school teachers. So I'd like to introduce our panel today, and we also have a live viewer, which is great, who's joining us from the other side of the country in sunny California. So I'm going to start off by introducing our elementary school teacher. This is Tara Olshaw. And Tara, if you want to just tell our audience a little bit about your background and as far as teaching goes, that'd be great.
Okay. I've been in Burlington 11 years now. I've taught 4th grade while I've been here. Next year I am moving up to 5th grade. Very excited about that. And this year my classroom, or the entire 4th grade, started one-to-one with iPads. So it's been
great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Carolyn Crowley, who is a 6th grade math teacher at Marshall Simons Middle School, and her teammate on Team B at Marshall Simons Middle School, Barbara Stuyvesant, and she teaches social studies. And if you ladies could share with us in the audience your background, that'd be great.
Sure. I'm Carolyn Crowley. I've been here for 12 years. I was a permanent sub for 1 year, so this is my 11th year teaching math in Burlington. This is our 2nd year as a one-to-one school. Right? Well, year and a half. That's about it.
All right, my name is Barbara Sturdivant, and this is my 11th year teaching. I spent 2 years teaching in Connecticut, and I've been at Marshall Simons for 9 years, and I teach 6th grade social studies, which is geography. And since I'm teammates with Carolyn, we've been having the iPads for about a year and a half, like 2 years.
Great. Well, thanks to the three of you for spending time with me today. The work you have been doing at your schools is really exceptional, so I wanted to share with our audience some of the specific things that you've been doing. I wanted you to give them sort of an up-close and personal look into your classrooms. A lot of schools are transitioning to one-to-one environments, and they're debating making Chromebooks or iPads, and you've had a lot of success with the iPad, so I wanted you to share that experience. So my first question I wanted to ask, if you could share your experiences with transitioning the workflow into digital. So Tara, if you wanted to start with that and how you've become more of a digital classroom.
Being their first year with the iPads, they didn't have them in 3rd grade. It was a little bit tricky to teach them all the apps up front, but it's really paid off. Most everything is now on the iPad or online. From their writing to their math program to the vocabulary program. So as the year has gone on, we both have taught each other so much, and it's less overwhelming than I thought it was going to be. So most everything's online.
Now, when you say you've been teaching each other, do you mean you with your students learning
Yes.
together?
And I think I've learned more from them. It's amazing how much they take to it. Easier than I have. So I think if you give them that little time to explore, you introduce an app and you give them the time to explore, it most often is that they can teach me more than I can really teach them, and they teach each other. So, and I was a little nervous that we would lose sight of the curriculum through this all, but it's really enhanced the curriculum. Their writing is much more meaningful. They're able to go back and edit things without rewriting everything. They just go back into the Google Docs, and we can share things back and forth and comment back and forth. It's been a great experience.
I'm so glad you said that. I kind of have the same strategy here at the high school as far as learning alongside the students, and if I find an app that I know I want to try, I can hand it to the student and they can play with it. And this happened yesterday. I gave one of my help desk students the Do Wink app, and she came back at the end of the period, had created something, put it in iMovie, and uploaded it to YouTube. So it was just like, it's incredible, really, what can happen. Carolyn and Barbara, if you could share how your classroom has transformed into a digital environment, that'd be great.
I just want to say that I think what Tara was talking about was very important. I think that, you know, as learners also, you know, and to be able to learn from the students, they know so much, you know, especially at the 6th grade level where they've been using them for a long time, and, you know, most of them have iPhones, truthfully, and they have iPads at home, and they know a lot of apps that we might not be familiar with, and I think that if you come into it and say, you know what, let's all play with it together, I think that that's such a great environment, and I think that the sharing is so important, and it's important for us. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to have this one-to-one environment. I think, you know, I'm really trying to go as paperless as possible at this point. I'm trying not to give as many worksheets. I'm trying to scan in worksheets, you know, using Genius Scan, and then sending them to Notability and allowing the kids to use it that way. And I think that with the world evolving in terms of technology, I think that we as teachers, we need to evolve, and I think that there is a learning curve, absolutely, and I think that you know, the students need to see that. It's a little scary for us, some of the newer apps, but see that we're willing to put in the time to learn them also, alongside them.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Along with the students, you know, some of the things we do is I'll be using an app that I feel familiar with, and just the other day and explain everything, I'm like, I wonder if there's a way to duplicate a slide. And so a student and I sat there and played with it, and we both figured it out. We were like, all right, great, this is how we do it. And, you know, I didn't know how to do it. He didn't know how to do it, but together we were able to figure it out. One of the things I'm so excited about using this year is I discovered Doctopus, which I know is still kind of in its earliest stages, but I do a lot of projects being a social studies teacher, and I was running off 100 rubrics and, you know, had all these papers in my hand, writing them all out, handing them back to the student. With Doctopus, I one time put in all of their email addresses and set up my classes by roster. I merge the roster, and it automatically populates one for every student on Google Drive. So I'm not printing anything. I'm not hunting them down. It automatically sends it to them when it is completed. And it has just made my life so much easier. I can grade from anywhere. They can check it from anywhere. They can check immediately and go, okay, she hasn't gotten to mine yet. And there's none of this just paperwork, which I feel like I drown in sometimes.
Yes.
So that has been one of my favorite things to do this year, and I'm so excited about it.
I love that you just said it's made your life easier. I think a lot of times teachers don't realize that that's what technology can do. It really can make your life easier. And the other thing you just said about having access to documents and work, both the teacher and the students, anywhere. I think, Carolyn, you and I were talking about how we can create docs from our phones.
Right. Yes, I was saying how yesterday, it was 2 days ago, we do a newsletter, and it's using Google Drive, and it's a shared document, and I was trying to edit, and I forgot that I actually had to download a new app. I had to download Google Drive onto my phone, sitting on my couch, writing my newsletter from my phone. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing how easy it was, and I had just downloaded it, never having used it, but being so familiar with it now, it was easy to do.
Exactly.
So convenient.
So you're all risk takers too, and I think that's a trait that teachers nowadays, you know, it kind of comes with the territory. You have to be willing to take risks and try new things, and you know, not be afraid to fail. You know, I have a whole lot of video footage that I'll never be able to publish because it's through just experimenting, and you see the progression as you gain more experience and your comfort level increases. I don't want people to get the wrong perception of Burlington that, you know, we love every app on the planet. We're very, I think, clear that we less is more. We have a less is more strategy. We're not going to play with every single app that is released. So, Tara, could you share some of the foundational apps that you may use that you that are your go-to that you have found effective?
Sure. I'm glad that you said foundation, because there are a lot of apps, and one of the things that the 4th graders had to learn right off the bat was that there are some apps that are to play with, but the the apps that we use every day to make that schoolwork happen is the foundational ones. We use Notability. We use Book Creator a lot. We use Edmodo a lot for literacy circles, and we use the math app to expand their math concepts along with the program. Trying to think what else we use.
Now, your fourth graders, just for people who may be exploring the one-to-one and the logistics of it, the elementary students do not take the iPad home.
No, they don't take it home. We do house it here in a cart that's locked every night. They do have it with them. We do switch classes, so they do take it class to class with them, and they use it in different ways.
Great, and I'm assuming you go over, when they initially receive the device, there is probably an orientation on how to care for it, and it just like any other tool. And do you find that the fourth graders are able to handle that well?
Mrs. Weldon, our technology teacher, does come in, and she works with us at the beginning of the year with the students and shows them how to hold it, how to care for it, how to be a digital citizen.
Good.
What not to do, what to do. We go over the rules of what you can use, what you can't use, when you can do it. We have something called Apple Side Up, so when teachers talking, they know to put Apple Side Up. So all of that stuff is so important in that first 6 weeks of school, to just like your classroom procedures and policies. You really need to take the time to go over that, and then you don't have to keep reminding them. I have to say they're quite responsible with them.
It's just like another classroom management technique, because some of the naysayers of one-to-one environments, and the iPad specifically is, it's a distraction. But I think our argument to that is you manage it, that the students having that tool, you manage it just as you would any other tool. They have phones in their pockets, and I love that Apple Side Up. I say devices down. That's my key word for devices down. And just before I jump over to Carolyn and Barbara, Tara, your fourth graders don't install their own apps, and
they don't. We have two different accounts. We have the school account that Mrs. Weldon puts all of the things that everybody uses, and then class to class. Like I have the higher reading class, so I love Worldly Wise, which is a vocabulary program, and I was able to pilot Worldly Wise on their iPads this year, which it has been enormous, because that correction piece was so time-consuming, and now it does it all for me, and it gives me that whole graph already corrected. So that's a big saving piece for me. But so with my account, I can download other apps that I'll be using myself. So not every fourth grader necessarily has the same apps. They have the same foundational apps, but then teacher to teacher, we do have that flexibility to add things that support the curriculum.
Yeah, and it sounds like you can differentiate the apps that are available to students based on their individual needs.
Yes, exactly. That RTI piece really plays in nicely.
So I'm going to jump over to Barbara and Carolyn. If you could speak to some of the foundational tools that you have had success with, that would be great.
Sure. So I think that when I first got the iPad, the first app that I used with the students was Socrative, which I love. I used to use it for just a warm-up. They would come into math. I would put something on the board, and I would project something, and it would be a question. It would be a multiple-choice question, and then they would have their Socrative open, and it was great because it would give me a graph, and it would give me immediate feedback, so I could see if what we were doing, if they were getting it, if they weren't. I could see who was doing well, who wasn't. If I get to a question and most of the students would do it wrong, then I would realize that would be something that I would spend more time on. So I love that app. I like EduCreations. It's great, especially for our algebra unit, because it's great for graphing. They can graph coordinates. They can look at an equation and graph it. It's great for that. Explain Everything is another one that I use. I use it mostly for projects, because to me it's very similar to making a PowerPoint, and they can go in. We do a geometry presentation in it. They know how to insert photos and videos, and they're very good at that, so I like that they use Explain Everything. Notability I use every single day. The kids, when they take notes for math, they use Notability, and it's nice because it shows them how to stay organized. So they have every single chapter is put in there, and they can, we input, I will take like a worksheet, and I will Genius scan it, and then I'll send it to them. They'll open it in Notability. It's nice because in the 6th grade, they're getting into all these different subjects, and it's just a nice way to keep them organized because I think they can feel overwhelmed with all this technology, and that's what I love about Notability. So I'd say those are probably my go-to apps.
I would say I use a lot of the same ones, and of course with geography I use some of the different ones. Definitely Notability. Same thing with the organization where you can create subjects and dividers and do it by chapter. But whereas I used to type up questions, print them out, hand them out, now I've figured out how to get them from Drive into Notability, and I send it as a Notability note to them. So they're not worrying about spacing or running out of room or trying to fit it because they can move things down. We did one the other day where I had them create graphs and insert the graphs into Notability to compare economies of different nations. Absolutely love Notability. And they're getting also really adept at, can we send this to ourselves? Of course, it's your work. Yes, you can email it to yourselves. That's a great way to study at home. Send it at home. And they know how to switch it to a PDF so they can read it at home. I also do a lot with Explain Everything. I do a lot of map comparisons using the different with Explain Everything, or we'll take a blank map and insert real pictures of different physical features that we're talking about. But one of the other apps that I definitely use, Google Earth. There's no better way for them to learn about where these different places are than using Google Earth. And I can project it, but it's even easier if they're all mirroring what I'm doing. Or if I say, okay, this is an archipelago, use Google Earth, everyone go find one. They're looking at the Earth itself and trying to find one, which is just absolutely awesome, and we love doing it. And Tara, it was really funny that you said apple side up, because that's the exact same phrase that we use on our team is apple side up.
Yep.
Great.
For the people who say, like, oh, they get distracted, it's pretty easy to tell when a kid isn't using it appropriately.
Right.
If they're not supposed to be using it all, they have it on their lap, you can tell. It's
right, and
it's
I think
pretty easy.
Exactly what you're saying too. I think that just as a good teacher, classroom management is important. You need to have good classroom management, whether you have iPads or not. Kids are going to be distracted.
Right.
You need to come up with ways to know. I do a lot of moving around my room because a lot of the stuff that I do, I reflect onto the board. So, if a kid's not paying attention, I'll walk right over and go behind them and just tap on their desk. And, that's good teaching practices regardless of whether or not you have the technology. I think that that's important to know. I think that, as Barbara said, if I say, okay, show me what's on your iPad, and I can see that they're clicking on their, their home button,
screen, yeah,
I know they're not paying attention. So
it's just something else to manage, but I don't know, I find it easier, with note-taking. If they're actually passing notes, you can't actually tell what they're doing, really, but with the iPad, if they're not supposed to be using it and they have it, you can tell. You know that they're using it. Right. One other thing that Tara mentioned that's awesome for the 4th grade, in middle school, all the kids have the same apps. It's not broken down by team or by grade. Right. It's, this whole middle school, they have a standard set of apps, and we actually have a Google document for the staff where we can go in and put in app requests and what they would be used for, what the price is, and they try to update it and gather the iPads and update them every once in a while.
So it's not just set for the entire year. If you say, you know what, I found this one on my own and I really think it would be helpful, Dennis at the high school is very good at saying, all right, let's figure it out, because he's very knowledgeable about it, and they're willing, if we're willing to explore an app, they don't want to say no, and they will not say no. That's the greatest thing. We have tons of support, and that's I think so important.
And if they do say no, it'll say, oh, well, we have something similar. Have you seen this? And it's, oh, all right, I didn't know it was very similar. So.
Right. Yes, because not all apps are created equal. I think we know that. You try a few and you say, this is just not going to meet my needs, so you delete it. You play with it. It's not going to work. But, it's great to hear that the elementary students are getting exposure to Explain Everything, because in the middle school, and we do it here at the high school too. I've been installing that in biology classes and social studies. So, by the time they head off to college, I would argue that they're going to feel very comfortable using any type of technology. You've mentioned some foundational apps, and briefly, I've heard Google Docs, but could you speak to Google Drive, and specifically the role that plays in your curriculum, Tara, if you wanted to talk about.
First, I just want to say that I'm so excited that we're using the same things, because that makes the transition from elementary school to the middle school much easier, you know. So with Google Drive, I use it to share assignments with the students. The students organize their subjects into folders, which they're really good at. So I do use Genius Scan. We do save a lot of their work to their Google Drive so we can pull it out later. So the storage is quite powerful. They have everything right there at their fingertips. Student-parent communications, you know, the parent can go on to their Google Drive at home and see what they've been working on, or maybe help them to revise something. So I was a little bit nervous at first because I didn't want to give up my Word, but this is it's just so much more powerful than Word once you get used to it. But you get stuck in your comfort zone, and then to go to that Drive and to see how much it can really do. The portfolios is really nice. I don't know if I'm sure that you do that at the middle school, but I don't know if you go into the elementary portion of the kids' portfolios, and you can see how they've grown throughout the years, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So are you using Drive for portfolio?
Well, it's in there. You access it through Drive, but it's in their Blogger.
In Blogger,
so it's kind of organized in their Drive, but I guess it's a separate app. It's in Blogger.
Yeah.
When they go into their Drive, they have that nice box of the different apps that's available through that. So
that's great. And Tara, do you have to go right at 10?
I do have to go at 10.
Okay, so I want to just grab one more question, or have you?
You want to get my kids? Paula says she'll go get my kids for music.
Oh,
so
that's
I can wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah, the clock is behind you, so I can see what time it is. So I know it's coming up.
I know.
Are you using any type of social media with your parents or students at the elementary level? Because I know as a district, we're very progressive in terms of leveraging tools like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to communicate district-wide. Are you doing that on a more personal level with moms and dads of the kids in your class?
Not with the moms and dads, but we do use Edmodo, which is a social, and we do the global read aloud. So we do talk with other fourth graders throughout the country, which is social, about a book that we're reading all in common. So I guess that would be the only social media that we've really kind of tried out with them. Yeah. But I think the school as a whole, we have just the blogs, the classroom blogs is kind of our communication right now.
And you have your own classroom blog or website that you use to stay in touch with parents, yeah.
Yeah, so the homework assignments are on there and anything that's happening in school. So that's the mode of communication right now.
Great. Carolyn and Barbara, how about you with social media and Drive, Google Drive? How are you?
Well, first, with Google Drive, I mean, I use Google Drive all the time. I've actually started to use it more in my reading class right now, where I'll have the students create a 5-paragraph essay, and then I'll go in and do comments, and then they can respond to my comments. And it's great because they can go right to what I've marked out, and then they can respond to something immediately, which I think is fantastic. We also do use Edmodo. Barbara's going to speak more about that. It's tough because, I mean, Facebook obviously is something that we know the students use. However, there is an age restriction, so I think it's tough at the middle school level. But we love Edmodo because it is very similar in its structure to Facebook, so it's something the students are very familiar with.
And they love using it. And they've really taken ownership of Edmodo, where if we skip a day in posting the homework or we were absent, they'll go on themselves and either ask for the work, or they'll just, a few of the students now are just automatically going on when they get home and saying, here it is, and some of them are so funny. If it's a worksheet,
scanning it.
They're pre-scanning it, going, all right, if anyone needs this, just here it is.
Yep.
Because we know you're going to ask, so here you go. And I mean, we have, I guess the biggest area I've seen a huge increase is with students who are absent. They're coming in with the work already done because they've logged onto Edmodo and taking care of it, and that's just so proactive of them. And I think it's going to help
much.
them, And it also has cut down on the I didn't get the paper, I didn't know what the homework was, nobody told me, you didn't give me, that we sometimes do get.
Yeah.
And it just kind of cuts it all out. And because parents can have their own account, they can also see, here's the homework, here's when the project was assigned, if it's a rubric or a worksheet that's been created, we'll put them up on there. Like from our drive, we're able to share them and upload them to Edmodo. And then even with that, going back to Drive a little bit, if I have a project rubric, instead of printing out 100 copies and saying, here's your guidelines, I'll show it to them, and then I'll share it with them so they have it as reference. So again, not wasting as much
Yeah,
paper.
we share all the time. I mean, if we have a schedule change for any reason, whoever makes the schedule shares with all the students. They can look at it. We obviously share it as view only, but it's just so much easier. They are definitely taking a lot more ownership. I had a student yesterday who had been absent for a few days, and so he missed what I had gone over in class. He was taking a couple makeup tests, and he emailed me, and he said, can you help me with these particular questions? He had taken a picture of them, shown what he had done. I'm sitting on my phone, actually, at the park with my kids, but I'm able to very quickly just say, oh, yeah, this is the problem with this one. It took me 30 seconds, and I responded immediately, and he was so appreciative. And it was great, because, I mean, they're so used to using it all the time. We're so used to using it all the time. We feel like
we want the kids to be proactive. We still make them write in their agendas, but when it comes right down to it, they are still 11 and 12 years old. And, I think the parents we've had many parents being so appreciative. They're like, this just really helps. It helps keep them on track, and they know that they can check. So it helps with the kids because they're like, all right, mom and dad can always look, so I might as well stay on top of it. And it kind of loses that whole, shock. I didn't know they missed all this. Well, here it is for you, which is just absolutely
right. And actually
awesome.
having them have access to our grade book through Aspen, what we choose they can have access to, that's also really important too.
Right.
Right. Now, are your kids creating their own folders in Drive, or do you create them for
Yeah, both. We may have some shared folders. I know in language arts they do a lot of shared folders. Language arts teacher, she'll make like a poetry folder, and all right, if we're doing this style of poem, everyone save it with your name and put it in this shared folder.
That's great.
But they're also pretty organized within their Drive. Doing homework, sending it in that way, even projects and things like that.
It's easier to keep organized with your iPad than it is to keep organized with 105 worksheets, truthfully.
In 4 different classes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love the things that you're saying about 11 and 9, 10, 11-year-old kids being responsible, being proactive. We're working on that with some of the high school students, so it's wonderful to hear. And I think that the integration of technology, if you do it right, a lot of times people say, well, how do you find the time? It frees up time. It actually gives you more time. Like you said, Carolyn, you can be grading things no matter where you are, responding no matter where you are. And I understand that there are some teachers that would set a boundary and say, whether they were one-to-one or not, say, after 4 o'clock, I'm not going to be on email, whatever the case may be. But I personally love it. When I was an active user of Edmodo, and I saw a huge increase in students doing homework and communicating with me through that platform, and that just excited me. That especially if a teenager did that on the weekend, like they were sending me a message on the weekend. It was like, oh my, they're thinking about school, and it's Saturday. That's a wonderful thing, I think. I want to give Sarah the chance to ask a question, but I do want to ask one more question that. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say debate, but there's a lot of talk about keyboards and the use of keyboards. And the kids aren't talking about that. The adults are talking about that. So that's all I'm going to say. I think I don't need to say any more than your take on keyboard. Tara, if you could start.
You mean the use of keyboard versus the writing?
Yeah, versus the use of the iPad not having a physical keyboard. Is that an issue for the
They do really, really well with it. I mean, we also do 5-paragraph essays in class of persuasive writing, and they can bang out a whole essay within 20. It actually takes less time for them to. And some of them are doing the hunt method, and that's okay. It still works. So I don't think that is an issue. I don't know. I just think it's just the plus side on it where they can just go in and they can edit without having to rewrite the whole piece over. It's such a saving of time that I think it outweighs any negatives against the keyboard.
Right. So they're writing a full essay on their iPad.
Yes, and then they send it to me, and then I comment on it as well. We do that thing, or they share it out to a friend, and the peer editor, looks it over, makes comments, and sends it back to them. So we're doing a lot of that too, and I think for the boys that might have a little bit of a harder time with their penmanship and get tired by the end of a long piece, they're just plugging right along and finishing actually a lot quicker and getting assignments faster. So.
That's excellent. And then they come to the high school and they type their essays on their phones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Carol and Barbara, your thoughts and perspective on keyboards.
I just think it's funny that you said it's the adults that are pushing it. That's exactly because they're used to it. That's what they are used to. The students are used to working without a keyboard.
Yeah.
I think that with anything, it's a learning curve, but I never use a keyboard for my iPad ever. Just because of being able to get used to not using one, and I think it's I think that keyboards are going to go away, on an iPad completely. I don't think they're important.
I mean, this is the world that they've grown up in.
Exactly.
I'm fortunate that I remember having a computer in my kindergarten class, and it was one of the big giant Apple IIes and everything else. But these
like
kids,
Oregon Trail.
Right? These kids have had, if not iPhones or iPads, but they've had Wii. Nintendo Wii came out how many years ago? This is what these kids know. It doesn't even occur to them to miss a keyboard because they never really knew that
it occurs to the adults
a keyboard.
That's such a good point.
I have a 5-year-old at home who can use my iPad, and it's funny. We put him in front of a laptop, and he's touching the screen. We're like, no. But, that's where his mind goes, is to that. So these kids coming up now, doesn't even faze them. The high schoolers, maybe a little bit. Give it a couple more years, it's going to be a non-issue from the kid's point of view.
Right.
Yesterday, I was doing a Google search on my iPad with my daughter using voice. We were saying, okay, Google. Yeah. I said, what do you want to ask Google? We were talking about what I do for a living. I said, what does Mommy do for a living? And she says, Google. Like, I wish, but pretty close. So Google's become, I guess, part of the family at my house. But, yeah, she was speaking into the iPad, and it was popping up. So that was pretty neat. So like you say, Carolyn, I agree with you. I don't know if we'll have keyboards a decade from now. Who knows? Before I wrap up, Sarah's been patiently listening, and I don't know if you have a question, if you wanted to jump in and ask a question before we wrap up.
I just wanted to let you guys know that it's nice to hear that you're at the same kind of level we are, and about the iPads, I just wanted to say that I think we have to move now to that creativity piece. And it's been kind of just this, we're on this worksheet. I think the adults are the ones on the worksheet end, and we're just trying to move to that project end, really, with the students. But do you guys have a learning management system, or do you guys just use Google Drive to turn things in? What do you guys do at the middle school and elementary?
Tara, do you want to take that?
I'm not sure what she means by a learning management.
I guess, I know that district-wide we really don't, Sarah. We don't have a mandated platform that every Burlington teacher has to use, like Canvas. A lot of people have played with Canvas in the high school. Some people are using Edmodo. All of our grading is through Aspen. The grading system is Aspen, but teachers can set up their own either Google site, they can use WordPress, they can use Blogger. So every teacher has their own choice in our district, which is, I think, from my point of view, is a wonderful thing. Google Classroom is launching in the fall, and I'm very excited about that personally. I'll probably end up adopting that if it is everything it's claiming that it's going to be. If not, then I would probably use Edmodo. I would switch back to Edmodo. I used WordPress this year, but I kind of miss Edmodo, so I think I would go back to that. But no, we don't have a mandated LMS.
Well, I have one other question for the teachers. What do you guys think is holding some of your teachers held a little bit back by the technology?
Talking about
and
this.
afraid of it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's fear. That's all that it is. It's the fear of the unknown. I mean, with any new thing, it's oh wow, I have to learn this new thing. And I think a fear of failure, thinking I'm not going to know how to use this. And I think that it's just, you know, more exposure to different apps, learning from other teachers, I think is important, as well as learning from students. But I think that it's simply fear. It's I'm afraid of going on to something and not knowing how to use it.
Don't get us wrong. Not everything has been like picture perfect, Pleasantville. You know, we've had lessons where we'd be like, oh, we're going to use this, and it just has not worked. But you just roll with it. And I mean, I think we do that no matter technology or not technology. You always have some lessons that are fabulous, some that are weak, and then you know where to go from. You know, and I think there's also a little bit of complacency of, well, I've never needed it before, and I've done a great job, so why do I need it now?
Right, which is silly. We need to change what we do and reach the students. Now the students are into technology. We need to make sure that we cater to that need.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, from my point of view, if you're not failing, you're not learning.
Right.
You know, you try video projects. Sarah, you just talked about moving to the creativity piece, and that's the high-level Bloom's area that we want to be in, that we want our kids to be in. You know, it's almost like flipping Bloom's on its head and start with the creation piece. You know, I've been toying with EduCanon, which is a great platform for delivering videos, and I'm having a tough time because I'm so project-based, and right now I'm limited to multiple choice questions, which are frankly pretty low level. So, but it's a neat tool. I've enjoyed seeing the students being able to monitor their progress, and I've asked for them, what do you guys think of this? You know, is this something you enjoy using? Are you comprehending the videos better? And they've given me that feedback, and they said yes, and we like this. So I know, Tara, you have to get going. It's 10 after 10.
You also. Me too.
But I just wanted to thank you for being here on short notice, and I think I can speak for the three of you when I say that we're successful here in Burlington really because of our leader in tech integration, and that would be Dennis Volano. And he's not here. I asked him to join me, but I did want to just personally thank him for serving as my mentor, my unofficial mentor this year. But that I think that's the key to success in a district, is having somebody who has a vision for strong technology integration and transforming teaching and learning experiences for teachers and students, and that's Dennis. I mean, you've all worked with him, and he's a very humble guy, but it's really because of him we're moving in the direction that we're moving in, and it's just an honor for me to get to work with him and the rest of the members of the team. Carolyn, I think you talked about support, and that's something that we have here in Burlington that is just pretty special, from our superintendent all the way down to, you know, our colleagues working with each other in each of our buildings. So, like you said, it's not picture perfect, and you know, we try things and maybe they don't work out the way we planned, but we just, you know, try plan B and just go back to the drawing board, so to speak. And speaking of the drawing board, I just want to let you know there's a free app today in the App Store that you might like. I'm going to quickly end by saying that it's called Animation Desk Premium, and it's normally a paid app. I quickly grabbed it. Look at them getting on their iPads right now to download it. Hey, it might not be good, so you delete it, but it's free today. And I found out. So thanks to Richard Byrne for I subscribed to his iPad newsletter, and it had that in there, and I quickly downloaded it. And Tara, like you said, I'm going to just hand it to a student and say, play with this. Tell me, you know, and when you do that with a student and they come back and they go, you go, all right, I'm gonna just delete that. Or they come back, hey, I want to use this in this class and that class. Then you know you found a winner that you could add to your toolkit. So, thank you to everybody who watched these episodes. It's been this program has exceeded my expectations. I can't believe I've done this for 14 weeks, not consecutively, but pretty darn close. I'll probably do a bonus episode if I can get my students in on board. I only have a few left because I had mostly seniors, but next year they'll be running the show, hopefully from start to finish. I have quite a few hams coming in, so I'm excited to be off camera and be behind the scenes. I wanted to put you ladies in the spotlight because you deserve it. You've done some exceptional work, And I thank you for your time, and have a wonderful summer, and I'll see you at BPS Con in August.
Thank you so
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.